okay to start,
Yeah,
Kat?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay, thank you very much. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. As some of you probably know, we've been doing this annually for a couple of years now, and we find it really useful to be able to give as many people as possible that aren't necessarily here to join us at our AGM an update on what we've been doing with the Tarras Valley Nature Reserve. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mary Telford-Jammy and I'm the chair of the Langham Initiative, which is the community landowner of the Tarras Valley. I'm going to act as the facilitator for the event tonight, and it's great to see such a good turnout. Thank you again. So we're really looking forward to providing an update from the team, and we're hoping this webinar will last about 45 minutes and hopefully have 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. I'll come on to that in a minute, but just to say it's been another very busy year for the team, and we're delighted that we recently were able to launch our action plan, and you'll hear a bit more on that later. One of our board members has just stepped down in April. That was Kevin Cumming, who some of you know was very much instrumental in supporting the Langham Initiative to take on the ownership of the Tarras Valley. And we have recruited a new board member this year in Pip Tabor, who many of you will know was the manager of the Southern Uplands Partnership. So we're delighted that he's come on board. And we also want to say a big thank you to Kevin for all the hard work that he's put in over the years, and we're very grateful to him for everything that he's done. The organisation continues to grow, and we continue to review structures and the way we manage our finances to make sure that we have the best possible systems in place and can reassure our funders and others that we're making the most of our resources and using them efficiently and effectively. This year we set up a finance subgroup to oversee that, and we had employed a consultant to support us to develop management accounts, which has been a great approach to take going forward. We continue to build partnerships, and you'll hear a bit more about that in a minute, host visits from volunteers and students, and engage with colleagues across Scotland through organisations such as Community Land Scotland. The Tarras Valley Nature Reserve is really the main focus of the Langham Initiative as an organisation. And as you will hear tonight, we're sort of managing many different projects within that remit and taking forward our key aim of creating a sustainable nature reserve. We're still at a very early stage. It's going to be a long process, but it's very exciting, and you'll hear some of the exciting things that have been happening this year shortly. And we hope that you'll continue to follow us along the way in what we think is a hopeful story to show what is possible when we all come together. Before we go on to the main presentation, I just want to mention to you that this webinar is being recorded, and that the recording will go onto our YouTube channel and be shared afterwards for people who weren't able to make it tonight. We'll also take questions at the end, as I mentioned earlier, so please put your questions in the chat, and these will be put to the team following the presentations. If we don't have time to answer them all, we'll respond in FAQs afterwards and make sure these are available to you all. So I would just like to introduce the staff team just quickly. For those of you that don't know everyone on the team, Jenny Barlow on the left, top left of the picture, is our reserve manager. Angela there with the dogs and the logs is the development manager for the team. Working along the top, Joyce, who has the scarf around her neck, is our office manager and plays a pivotal role in everything we do. On the right at the top, we have William, who is our shepherd, who manages the flock of sheep that we have at the Coombs. Bottom left is Inigo Alcanes, who's our digital media manager. Then Kat, who with holding a barn owl, I think, is our education and engagement officer. And finally, Juliana Murray is our finance officer who supports us very much in what we're doing. So now I'm just going to hand over to Angela to give a start in the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. If any of you attended last year's webinar, this slide may be a little bit familiar to you, but we think it's really important that people understand what Tarras Valley Nature Reserve and the land itself actually means to so many people. We've tried to list down what all the different things that people feel are really special about the land. And it means so many different things to so many different people. It's not just fulfilling one purpose. For some people, it's home. Some people, it's a place of work. For many, it's the backdrop to the common riding or the local hounds trail, somewhere to go wild swimming, somewhere to go walking. Some people come to watch the hen harriers dance or the black grouse lek. People, both local and visitors, really value and use the reserve for so many different reasons. And we see ourselves very much as the custodian of the community-owned land, and it's our role to balance these uses while still allowing nature to thrive. Sorry, we just sometimes have a bit of a lag with the slides. So we're going to kick off with what was for us a really significant moment this year, that we launched our 5-year action plan. Back in 2022, when we completed the sale of the northern part of the state, we started the process of developing the action plan for the reserve. Although we had a business plan to support the actual land purchase, what we wanted to do was refresh that plan and to make sure that we'd got a community mandate for the developments on the reserve. So we spent an awful lot of time talking to groups, to school children. We took stalls at the co-op. We took stalls at the Lovelangen market. If there was an event going on, we tried to go and attend so that we could just talk to people, find out how they viewed the land, what was special about it, what did they want to see happen, what didn't they want to see happen as well. This took a good long time over the last 2 or 3 years, and as it says there, we attended over 50 events. We then had to collate and sift through all the information, and I think a special thanks to Jenny, who took on the bulk of that work, because it was quite a significant task. But we're really pleased with the result that gives us a mandate for the work and aspirations for the next 5 years. The plan's available on the website. If any of you get our newsletter, you'll have seen reference to it and links to it. Always happy to have feedback on it. But just to highlight, as it says there, it is aspirational. It depends on income, it depends on having the staff in place, but we wanted to be ambitious because that felt the right thing to do. And many of you will know that we've sort of operated to the 4 pillars. All our projects fall within people, nature, or climate. Quite often there's a lot of overlap between those. And then underpinning it all is making sure that we've got sustainability at the heart of what we do. And the sustainability is environmental, but it's also about the financial aspects, and it's also about the organisational aspects as well. It's a forever project, and we need to make sure that the organisation, the staff team are there for the long term so that we can actually make sure that we can fulfil those aspirations. So I'm just going to start off now with the people category and start off with an update of what's been happening there. We've set down below the different strands that fall under our wish to empower and reconnect people with the land and nature through a community-led approach. So we've got activity that's looking at the economic and social benefits, learning and discovery, community engagement, and visitor experience. And I'm going to start off now with the economic benefits. And what we've tried to do is reflect on what we set down as aspirations last year and not what we actually achieved, as well as what we're looking forward to into 2025-26. So we've always maintained that we want to support local business. For us, it's really important that the reserve benefits the town and the people of Langham as well. So where it's appropriate and where it's possible, we use local contractors, local shops, local services. And last year we put over £110,000 back into the local economy, and that supported, I think it was about 40 businesses involved there. We continue to maintain a number of homes on the reserve, and certainly the residents who live there are passionate about the reserve and what goes on. But we also set down the target of bringing one of the empty properties back into use. We've carried on doing the development work there, and that's everything from bat surveys to assessing the water supply, as well as commissioning the architect's work. We are now at the stage where we're going to be submitting an application to Rural Housing Fund. We'll be going out for tender. So if it all comes to plan, we hope to be starting this project towards the end of 25-26. We're a small staff team, and we did set down an aspiration to enhance and increase our employment. We haven't been able to do that just simply because of other priorities, but it's something that we will carry on looking to do. That might be a ranger post, woodland activity, heritage. There's a number of priorities that we are working on. We also set down the wish to look at future opportunities for our hefted sheep farm, Coombs. And we have finally started work on looking at the options for transition there. That's not going to be a quick project. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of discussion, and a lot of input. But we are working with a really good regenerative agricultural consultant, and we'll be taking that forward over the next year or so. We also set down an aspiration to look at either an apprenticeship or an intern opportunity. Having reviewed that, we decided we weren't in a position as a staff team to actually be able to provide the right level of support for such a post. But we have submitted a bid to operate a graduate placement programme. And we heard just this afternoon that we've got part funding for a one-year pilot for that, which we're really pleased about. Just need to find the match funding, but I have every confidence that we will make that happen. So hopefully this time next year, when we're feeding back in the webinar, we'll have Cronksbank Cottage renovated. We'll have timelines for farm transition. But what I'm also hoping is that we will have purchased an additional property. Again, we mentioned this in our last newsletter, but we're looking to purchase Broomham Shields Cottage. This is located right down on the south of the reserve, and it's very much at the entrance to the reserve and very, very close to a property we already own. We've got three main reasons for purchasing it. One is that it allows us to keep a local person living there who works on the land. Longer term, it gives us a development opportunity. And it also means, because it is in such an important position, it also allows us to sort of manage the entrance to the reserve. So we're looking for funding. We'll be putting our own funds in, but we are very confident that we will make that happen later on this year. And just sort of touching on visitor experience, we were hoping to have signage installed, that for various reasons has just been delayed, but will be happening at the end of May. Where it's been possible, we've had quite a full year for visitor events programs. A lot of this is often done for local people as well, but this has been an opportunity to test out what people are interested in. So dark skies, woodland yoga and more. And you'll hear Kat talk about these a bit more on when she goes on to some of the community engagement work later on. We've also been undertaking detailed design work on key projects to provide visitor accommodation. That includes glamping units. We're looking at a small bunkhouse development, as well as a small training cum event space as well. And sometimes ad hoc projects comes our way, and we were really pleased to work with Creation Mill, another social enterprise, to create a Tarras textile to celebrate 100 years of community land ownership in Scotland. We have also continued with an amazing band of 20 volunteers to keep our information hub going and working with the local tourism group. So a lot of the aspirations we set down, we've been able to maintain. But we hope, again, we're being ambitious with our aspirations next year. We'll have signage installed and hopefully planning more. We'll look to see more events being developed. Hopefully, we will be going for planning for visitor accommodation and looking at developing visitor experiences and building on guided walks training that we undertook last year, looking at guided walks program as well for the future. And now I'm going to hand over to Kat, and she's going to talk about another key areas of activity.
Thanks, Ange. So, as Ange mentioned, under the objectives of the people section of the plan, one of the areas is learning, discovery, and skills building. So, as part of this, we've been continuing to deliver our outdoor learning program to ensure every child in the area gets to participate in sessions on the community land. So in the last year, we've worked with all students across Langham and Canamy primary schools, and about 50 of those students completed their John Muir Award with us last year. And we also ran summer holiday bushcraft activities, which provided an opportunity for children to spend time exploring nature and learning various skills, such as foraging and firelighting. We've also been continuing to deliver rural skills and employability sessions with Langham Academy students, such as working with the rural skills class to provide the opportunity to practice skills such as dry stone walling. And all of the S3 students have attended sessions on the reserve, taking part in tree planting and bushcraft activities. We've also been working with higher education institutions and with students on research projects. So examples of this, on Monday we hosted Exeter University, who came for their third annual visit as part of their Scotland field trip. So they were learning about the development and management of the project, plus they helped plant over 1,000 trees on the Tarras Strip felling site. This afternoon we hosted also the third annual visit from Bangor University, who were visiting our woodland habitats. Other visits include we also work quite closely with Barony College, who use the site as a case study in some of their assignments, and various different universities, other universities as well. We've also contributed to multiple research projects relating to ecological restoration or community ownership for a variety of undergraduate and PhD students. We've been trying to continue to encourage and offer use of the land as an outdoor classroom and training facility. For example, the Crichton Carbon Centre used the peatland habitats recently for their peatland restoration and biodiversity training. And we've also taken part in various knowledge shares with other organisations. So we've hosted visits from Cumbria Wildlife Trust. Last summer, we visited the Cairngorms, and these knowledge exchanges give us a really good opportunity to learn from what work other people have been doing, and also to share what we've found and what we're doing with other organisations as well. So over the next year, what we are hoping to achieve is that we're wanting to review current and develop alternative accreditations for young people who are interested in participating in sessions or volunteering or doing work experience, aiming to support a wider skills development and employability program in the town. And also we are looking to develop a plan to identify and design a network of permanent learning spaces on the reserve, such as outdoor classrooms and things like that, rather than whereas at the moment everything is quite spread out, and we use the different habitats and stuff so that we have more formal educated learning sites on the reserve. There we go. So also looking at the community engagement side of things. So what we said that we'd do in 2025 was things like continuing the volunteer program and the community engagement events. So what we've been doing is we have a wonderful group of volunteers who come out regularly on the reserve. And over the last year, they've taken part in 48 volunteer sessions, during which they've undertaken various practical conservation tasks, which recently has included planting over 2,000 mixed native tree species on the Tarras Strip felling site. So hopefully we've also been spreading seeds and doing loads of different stuff down there. So hopefully that will build up to be a really beautiful site in the future. We've also been doing citizen science activities, such as surveying the adder population around the peatland restoration site. There's been lots of community and engagement events over the last year. As Ange mentioned, they've been more of a trial than an official program, but looking at what we are able to achieve on the reserve. So we've been trying to offer a diverse events program, which has included a dark skies event. We've had woodland yoga, we've had a ceilidh to celebrate Community Land Week, we've had film screenings of films such as Wilding, which also helps to share knowledge with different people, and having a diverse program of events also allows us to engage with a wider range of people across the community rather than focusing in on the obvious wildlife connections and interests. We've been continuing to engage with local community groups and organisations such as Creation Mill, the Excel Youth Project, Canopy Brownies, Langham's Community Forum, and many, many more. So a lot of the work that we've been doing with other community groups is really important because it means that we can collaborate and share resources and work on things together that benefit the whole community. We've also, going forward, we've also continued with the community engagement events linked with the different projects, such as hosting consultation events about the Tarras Strip restoration site. So some of that has fit in with the action plan, but we will be continuing to do this going forward about specific, about more specific activities. So going forward, we do want to make sure that we continue to work with local organisations, providers and individuals, particularly with developing our focus on ensuring younger people have a stronger voice in our work. So this is a really important part of what we're doing. Obviously, we're working a lot with local schools and local young people, but we're looking to find a way to formally provide an opportunity and a platform for young people to have a say in what we're doing. And also developing a plan to diversify our volunteer program to include a wider range of activities, particularly to be more accessible and inclusive for different people. And I'm going to hand over to Jenny.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Kat. So I'm going to cover the work that we've been doing on nature on the Tarras Valley. So just as a bit of a reminder, our big picture aim with nature restoration and across the Tarras Valley is about restoring dynamic ecosystems across the whole land holding. We've spent an awful lot of time over the last couple of years since we bought the land, engaging with other people, visiting other sites, exploring what this actually means. And I think we're all really learning about what this means, like how do you do it? And especially as part of our action plan, we really tried to pin down what it actually was that we wanted to do with the land to try and restore the ecosystem. So this has all been set out in our action plan, and I think the really important thing that we wanted to do was actually look at the whole system and what are the things in the system that we could do to help that restoration. So that includes regenerative grazing with herbivores to encourage that dynamism in the ecosystem. So things like cattle and ponies. Restoring the river system. We're lucky to have most of the Tarras Valley catchment in community ownership. So that's an amazing opportunity to look at how do we restore the river where it's been historically straightened and dredged and drained and disconnected from its floodplain. So things like how can we bring more wetlands back and restore all that altered natural hydrology across the landscape. Restoring native woodlands, scrub and plant to their natural limits and range across the valley. Restoring damaged peatlands and upland blanket bog, all with an aim to maximise biodiversity and encourage a really complex and abundant ecological web. So that's a lot of work. So I'm just going to cover a little bit about how we've actually been making that happen in the last year. So it was actually really nice to do this and have a look back at what we said we would be doing last year, and then also look at what we've done. It's been quite a big year for getting big projects happening. So it's been a really amazing year to see what's been possible, and it's kept us very busy. So the big thing, and I think this will be ongoing for a very long time, is continuing to learn about the land. As Mary said in the beginning, I think we really are still 4 years in. We're still at the early stages of understanding what we've got and what maybe is missing, and how things are responding to restoration. So we've done a lot in terms of paid ecology time with things like annual breeding bird surveys, but also a huge amount of data and evidence and really sort of specialist information comes from volunteer surveys and the citizen science side of things that Kat mentioned. So that gives us a really amazing window into things that we maybe wouldn't have the resources to pay for. So moth trapping, plant surveys, bryophyte surveys. It's really incredible that we can sort of blend all of that sort of volunteer survey in with our ecology paid surveys as well, and that really helps to baseline things and give us a record of how things are doing. We've finished our halo thinning round our ancient veteran oaks in Longwood, so that was a really nice milestone to see that finished. We also did trained local contractors within that woodland, so we built in like the skills and learning, and the contractors that did the chainsaw training in that woodland then came back to do the woodland management. So it was a really nice kind of circular project where we built in a lot of the social outcomes and the enterprise and the upskilling alongside the ancient woodland management. And it's already starting to see, we were in there this afternoon and there's loads of little saplings coming up where we've created more light and space in the woodland. So it's really lovely to see the results of that already. The river restoration opportunities on the Tarras Valley, that one's been a little bit on hold this year, although it was an aspiration last year, just down to resources and other projects. It's something that we haven't done as much on as we'd like. So that's something that's a sort of big aspiration for this year, to start to scope up what kind of river restoration opportunities we've got and how we could start making that happen. A big thing this year, which was an amazing thing to get done, was clearance of the regenerating Sitka spruce trees from our moorlands. They come in from surrounding forestry. They are quite an issue. It will be an ongoing management issue for us, and Kat and our volunteer groups have been busy clearing them for years, but we recognise we needed some specialist contractor support to come in and really help us get on top of the problem. So there's a picture there of some of the contractors that we got in. We initially tried to just do 30 hectares of clearance. We got a really amazing local contracting team in, and we actually managed to clear 258. So that's made a really big dent in the regenerating Sitka spruce. So it's made a very visible difference, which is great. Lots more to do, but it's onto a good start. Another big project, which you can see in the top right hand corner, where that digger's working did actually used to be a plantation. So we felled 36 hectares of Sitka spruce plantation woodland. It was ready to come down Storm Arwen 3 years ago, saw to it being mostly fallen to the floor with the storm that came in. So we had to sort of quickly fell that, but it did open up an amazing window for restoration. So we've been busy working with landscape architects at Yorkshire Dales Millennium Trust to co-design a new master plan for that whole area. How do we start to restore it now? So we had a lovely master plan created there with new wetland ponds, new footpaths, 2.3 miles of new footpaths have been created through those woodlands, and around 20,000 native trees are going to be going in there, or are in the progress of going in there at the moment. So that is a real transformation from a dark Sitka spruce plantation to something that's opened up the whole area and created loads of new amazing habitats. We have also welcomed Highland cows to the reserve, which have been, it's amazing to see. So Ange mentioned work on our whole grazing plan. The Highland cows and some fell ponies moved onto the reserve 2 weeks ago as part of a little mini grazing herd to help us to trial different ways of grazing through the reserve on areas that are really desperate for some sort of grazing, where we've got heavy Molinia grasses, things like that. So it's a really exciting opportunity for us to trial different ways of working as part of our restoration of the land, and work with a local grazier to see how we can use these animals as part of our restoration. And they are just really amazing to see. They're just lovely. So that's been great. And so our aspirations for 25-26. So another busy year ahead for nature on the Tarras Valley. So we'll be continuing to do our clearance of the regenerating Sitka spruce. We've got big ambitions to try and clear a lot more in the coming autumn, winter. You can also see just in that bottom corner there, the new ponds and all of the new footpaths that have been created on the lower terrace following the felling of the Sitka spruce. So it's really coming together now, and it's going to be the next stage of that project, thanks to Rotary International, is we're going to be putting lots of wetland plants in that area and marginal wildflower seeding as well, just to give it a bit of helping hand to colonise. We've also got a lovely growing partnership with Dumfries Prison. So Kat kindly dropped off 1,000 Scots pine seeds over at the prison a couple of weeks ago. So they'll be growing those trees in their wellbeing garden, and then they'll be coming back down here in the winter to be planted on the reserve. So it's almost a sort of like satellite tree nurseries that we're trying to create through the region, which is nice. We'll also be seeking funding for river restoration, feasibility studies and survey work. There'll be an awful lot of development work that needs to go into that. So that'll be a priority for the coming year. We're also working with the Woodland Trust to deliver for staff and volunteers some herbivore impact assessment training, so we can really pull together a collective effort in terms of survey and monitoring herbivore pressure, not just from wild herbivores, but also kept herbivores like our sheep, and just understanding what the grazing pressure and the impact looks like across the land to inform any future management. So that'll be a long-term bit of work, but it'll be really nice to get that started and help to upskill our sort of team and volunteers on that. And then we're also going to be continuing work on a whole reserve grazing plan. So Ange mentioned earlier that we're looking at sort of how we diversify our current farm operations. So we're starting to look at how can we go into organic, looking at regenerative grazing, going on training, visiting other sites. We've got potentially some training booked with another upland regenerative farm. So we're really just trying to learn from other people in terms of how this is done, how we can bring those things back to Tarras Valley, and also continuing to trial different grazing techniques. There's some of the fell ponies just in that left-hand corner there that have just moved on to the reserve a couple of weeks ago. So climate. Our big aspiration for climate was making a meaningful contribution to the climate and ecological emergencies with our land holding. So what does that mean? So the big thing for us will obviously be restoring the land and delivering a sort of nature-based carbon capture through restoration of our natural ecosystems, woodlands and peatlands. It's probably important to say at this point we aren't looking at carbon credits as a source of income. It is about restoring the land to be more naturally resilient. and adaptable to the challenges we face as the weather becomes changes and the climate changes. And also how our community land can make a contribution to local energy and food security. This one's a big one and it'll take a lot of work, but one that's really important to grow that local resilience. And we're also, one thing that we've identified as part of our action plan is also how do we reduce our own environmental impact as an organisation as well. So how have we been putting that into practice over the last 12 months? It's been a big year. So the first one and the big aspiration, and it's one of the big aspirations as part of the buyout, was peatland restoration. After a lot of back and forward with Nature Scott, 9 months to get our licence put in place to do the works within the designated site, and with a lot of help from restoration experts at Crichton Carbon Centre and funding from Scottish Power, we managed to complete our phase 1 peatland restoration. So that was 54 kilometres and 36 miles of artificial drainage ditches through our peatlands that have all been blocked up and re-wetted. So it's been incredible to see the difference that's made already, with thousands of little wetland pools appearing everywhere. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens to that now, once that land's restored, to see what moves in next. So it's been an amazing milestone for us to be able to get that delivered. So we have 5 diggers working for a month to do all of that work. So it was great to see it happen. We also have had a continuing aspiration to deliver 38 hectares of low density scrub native tree planting on the reserve. It's within the designated site, so it's probably similar to the point I've just made about the peatlands, that we are having problems getting any tree planting in the SSSI in the designated areas. But we are continuing to work with Nature Scott, and we've thankfully been part of the Scottish Environment Link. So we hosted national discussions with facilitated by Trees for Life on how do we have and encourage native trees in protected landscapes. That was a sort of national discussion about how do we do that as a collective across the whole country. So it's been really amazing as part of this that we can all work through these changes in our landscapes together and look at how can we do that properly. So that's been really good that we've been able to be part of that, and we're hopeful that we will get there with the Native Woodland Creation Project. Another big one, again, back to the hydrology and restoring that natural hydrology and resilience, is we now have mapped all the artificial drainage with thanks to the Crichton Carbon Centre across the reserve. So that now can help us form a really phased restoration plan that we can then seek funding for. So hopefully we can really just get going with re-wetting the land and restoring all those natural processes on the land that have been altered over centuries. We have also, with the wildfire risk so high at the moment, it's obviously it's a pressing issue. We've been working with Scottish Fire and Rescue for an incident management plan, but we also have been building a community asset register for incident response. And obviously that's twinned with preventative measures like re-wetting, and our regenerative grazing and visitor engagement. So our aspirations for 25-26 for climate are phase 2 of our peatland restoration. So you can see that on the map just there. So phase 1 in the purple's been delivered now. So that's a massive area. 190 hectares of ditches have been blocked on our peatlands. Our phase 2 area is 88 kilometres of artificial ditches over a 210 hectare area. So that's going to make an incredible difference. So it's been really amazing to have an idea of how modified the landscape has been over a long time, and the scope we've got for restoring that natural hydrology and all those benefits that's going to have for the ecosystem as a whole. So we're just going to be continuing to look for funding for that and working with the Crichton Carbon Centre, and hopefully we can do that this year. And I mentioned on the other slide, we will keep chipping away at our 38 hectares of low density native woodland. So that actually sits in one of the riparian zones, just where it says phase 2. It's sort of near that area. So hopefully we can start to look at that and get that delivered. Obviously continuing to review our own operational impact and reviewing options for community food growing across the reserve. One thing that's been really big in feedback has been about local food, local growing. How can we produce more food locally and keep that in the local area to reduce impact and also increase food security? So we can't do everything, but we can hopefully make a really good contribution to that going forward. So that's going to be factoring into things as we develop around properties and start to look at different projects that we really factor that in, and continuing to input into wider climate research. And as Kat and Ange mentioned, it's been really amazing that we can use the land as this classroom and help to inform wider research and learning about climate and resilience as we go forward. So that's everything on climate, and I will pass to Ange to finish on the sustainability.
Thanks, Jenny. So just going to give a quick summary on what's been happening with this sustainability element of our work. As we sort of said earlier, and put a lot of emphasis on, that we need to run responsible. We're here for the long haul, and there's so many aspects to the sustainability element. We're looking at financial resilience, organisational resilience, as well as actually generating more income from our activity, but also environmental sustainability as well. And hopefully some of the work that's been outlined earlier supports what we're doing towards that environmental sustainability side. The next slide. We put a lot of time and effort into putting in the sort of base layers to try and make sure that things like staff posts, revenue creation, putting those building blocks in place to allow us to move ahead with this. We are conscious that a lot of our staff posts are often supported by grant funds, and we do want to try and make sure that we move away from that. So little by little, we're making sort of baby steps in that direction. We do generate income from rents, from properties on reserve, from the farm, land leases, sales, events and other activity. And we have seen modest increases in our income generation, which is a positive step forward. But it's great that at the moment our existing staff team is sustained in the short term, but we need to look longer term with that. We have put a lot of time and effort into the development side of generating income, getting revenue creating assets. I mentioned on an earlier slide that we are looking at glamping units at a couple of locations, also looking at small scale bunkhouse and sort of event training space as well. A lot of detailed background work has to go into those, not just the architect side, but in some cases engineering elements. We've got to look at services, utilities, looking at our private water supplies, making sure that all those basic elements of the work are put into place, as well as the actual business planning to make sure we can create an income generating asset that is sustainable. So looking forward to next year, I hope when we're having this webinar this time next year that we'll have got things like planning permission approved for at least one project and funding package, so that hopefully we will have a project starting on site this time next year. We've also got to keep on with all the day-to-day management of our existing land and existing property. And whilst that might not be as high profile or as interesting or almost as sexy as some of the other projects we're working on, it's really important that we do maintain our homes, our water supplies, our tracks, and that all takes time and effort to make sure that that happens on a regular basis. We always hope to grow our base of supporters who contribute either from volunteering or funding towards our individual projects. And certainly looking to see if we can bring on board new trustees to help with our ongoing and future governance as well. For some of you who sort of know our current office space as well, has some interesting aspects to it. We've had a very interesting year. We've had floods, we've had roof falls. So while we manage on a day-to-day basis, we want to make sure again that we've got maybe better quality office space, but it's also maybe more welcoming to visitors as well. So there's two aspects to it. So that is something that we will be looking at in the current financial year, 25-26. So there's an awful lot behind the scenes to support these activities. We've made big roads into some elements of them. Hopefully some of those start to come to fruition in the next year. And now I'm going to pass over to Inigo.
Hello. Setting our story, last year we aimed to boost our digital presence and grow our audience. And as you've seen, you know the great job Kat, Angela, Jenny do. It's very, very easy to do that. So I'm not going to take credit for that. I would say, you know, that we launched the website, and sometimes we share their updates that might not be in social media. So always check our website. We said we were going to continue the landscape monitoring to track changes over time, and we've done that. We try to do that as best as we can, so you can see, you can always follow how is the lower Tarras restoration, or the Sitka spruce removal, the peatland restoration. You always have updates of everything that we are doing. Next slide. We said we would share our story through national and international media, and we were featured in print, in TV, and online, in podcast and things like that. So we are really happy with that and how it's been this year. And we said we would expand our digital tools to help people follow our wildlife. We've done that with our updates of the barn owls. We have had a small delay, 3-4 months delay with the Kingfisher bank camera and with the Kestrel nest camera. But I think they will be, in the next few weeks, everything will be sorted out, and hopefully we will be setting more things like that. And that's it.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, the team. I think everybody that's listening probably agrees.
Oh, Mary, I've just got this one slide. Sorry.
Sorry, Jenny.
You're all right. I promise I'll be done in a minute. So before I hand over to Mary, we just wanted to do, it isn't all about the numbers, but actually it is nice to kind of have a look back over last year and see what has been achieved with such a small team and such a small resource. But thanks to all our supporters and volunteers, we've managed to achieve an awful lot. So we have hosted 24 visits to the reserve, including Community Woodlands Association, the Land Reform Committee from the Scottish Government, numerous universities, natural history groups, and many more. We've had less media than the buyout. It's quietened down a lot, but we still do get a lot of interest. So it's been lovely to host teams like Country File, podcasts, national, international media when people get in touch with us. Sharing our stories, always a really nice thing to inspire other people. We've hosted 48 volunteer sessions on the reserve, completing practical tasks and lots of volunteer monitoring. We've held 59 sessions with local schools, 28 local events, including all the film screenings. You can see that in the bottom corner there. We've held some really nice films to just get discussions going locally about what kind of things we want to happen here in Langham. Dark Skies Nights, the Woodland Yoga. We've contributed to 11 external events or conferences, Chartered Institute for Ecology, the Blue Earth Summit, just in the top photo there. So it's been really nice to be part of much more national discussions about how land is managed and who gets to benefit and what that looks like in the future. And we've also taken part in 3 research projects. And in terms of the economy, Ange mentioned it earlier, 110,000 has been put back into the local economy using over 50 local contractors. So, and it's been quite a year. And I'll pass to you, Mary. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
You're okay.
Anyway, just to say a big thank you to our team. It really is a privilege to work with them. And they have achieved a lot over the last year, as I'm sure you can see. There have been bumps in the road and frustrations at times, but to be honest, we have achieved a lot, particularly I think in the last few months. It's been amazing to see the difference that has been made. Of course, we could have done this without our volunteers, and I think they've been mentioned several times, and also our supporters, our funders, big and small. The ones that have logos here, of course, but we also have some others who donate money to us and make a difference to what we're doing. It really is fantastic, the support that we get from people, both locally and from further afield. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to try and take some of the questions now that are in the Q&A, and if you have others, please put them in quickly, because I think we've only got a very short time left, but we can try and pass the questions to people here. Are you going to pick up the questions, Loris? Thank you.
So I think this one's for you, Jenny. In terms of wetland restoration, has reintroducing beavers been considered?
So it was something actually that got mentioned quite a lot when we were doing discussions about action plan and what do we want to do on the Tarras Valley. So beavers were mentioned by a few people, and we also did a screening of Riverwoods, and we've done Why Not Scotland as well. So we've definitely had discussions going about what does the wetland restoration and what does the river restoration look like and what can we do in the future. So one of the things we put into our action plan is to begin a feasibility study. I think it might be the year after next. We felt like we had a lot to get to grips with before we had the sort of discussions about what that looks like for the reserve and is it the right option for the land and how do people feel about it. So we felt like we wanted to do a feasibility study and really start to get conversations going, and also the community engagement that would be needed as part of something like that. But I think we were definitely keen to scope it out and start to have discussions about it and start to see whether beavers would be an option for Tarras Valley. But it was a couple of years into the future because we're grappling with quite a lot at the moment.
There's only one other question in there at the moment, which is probably me, actually. So do the recently announced changes to the John Muir Award affect you? So fortunately, there isn't actually too much that we've had to change into our previous John Muir Awards that we've done following the changes. The most significant change is that instead of focusing on researching and finding out more about John Muir, the students get to choose an inspiration environmentalist of their choice to do research and find out more on. So yeah, it's fortunately all very similar. There's just a couple of nice changes, but nothing too significant. It's not actually any other questions if anyone else has anything to write in.
If not, then it's probably back to me to say a big thank you to everyone who's come along tonight to hear the update from the team. And I'm sure you will agree that a tremendous amount has been achieved over the last year with this very small team who are passionate about what they do. It's none of it is 9 to 5 job. They work at weekends, they work in evenings, they work their socks off basically in sometimes difficult and challenging circumstances. So we do, as a board, try to support them as much as possible. And hopefully, going forward, we can continue to recruit volunteers and continue to recruit new board members. So thank you again for taking part tonight. Thanks to the staff for all the preparation. We had our AGM last night with a similar presentation, and we had a good turnout for that. So we're pretty happy and confident that going forward, we're in a good position. So thank you again.